there is someone here in that room, remotely, with us, who knows anything about norms, standards, regulation, constraints precisely, when it's not time constraints, it's Mr. Philippot. So I really want to leave you the floor for you to drive us about precisely the history of that, why is it important, where are we going with this, before we will even talk topic by topic with each of the experts which are with us today afterwards. Floor is yours.
Okay. So first, as an introduction, so I will just remind what is the scope of the digital product passport, because just to kill some bad idea that we can have now more and more on the social medias, because there are a lot of opportunities from different companies to promote the DPP and so on, and very especially on the software edition. What it is really important that the digital passport has been decided as a project from the European Commission a few years ago now, and so we started on it beginning of last year. Okay, it was in beginning of 2024. And the digital product passport is very actually focused on the circular economy, and then globally speaking, when we are talking about a digital product passport, we will talk about different streams. The most important will be to know how we can link a product physically as much as possible with a document or a digital document or digital information that will give to the consumer a certain number of information about the circular economy information, right? Like the recycling of the product, the life cycle, the notion of repairing and reuse, etc., etc. Okay, so you can hear sometimes that the DPP is more like this. Indeed, there are many other possibilities for the future, but actually, the scope of the digital product passport is only focused on the circular economy. So this is the main point today that we have also to keep in mind. And so for this reason, I prepare on this document, so you will have a list of slides, so I will not go through all of them in detail. But what is really important is that to understand that it is for almost of the products, excluding food goods, etc. But for the rest, all the product will be concerned from next year to a specific agenda about this digital product passport. So coming back to that, the first thing on what we have. Can you move on the next one? The first thing that we have to think about is that and the object of the digital product passport, this is the unique identifier. Okay, Can you display all the slide, because there are some animation, please. Okay, so the unique identifier. So it's not the unique identifier of the product. Okay, it is the unique identifier of the digital product passport. Of course, you will include the products, but also you will include the economic operator and maybe other third party that will also play a role in the life cycle of the product. The second part will be the data carrier. So how we can link the product to the digital product passport. So data carrier can be a lot of materials or codification. You can have a QR code, you can have a RFID, you can have a watermark, you can have a lot of things depending on the material, the size, the constraints of the material, and also depending on the constraints of the specific markets, because there are already some exigencies and some constraints on the market. The next one, if you can move. Okay, so the objective of the digital product passport will be also to be decentralized. Why? Because as we are talking about the life cycle of the product, of course, the product can be used or installed or designed for a certain period of time, maybe 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, 40 years, 80 years. Okay, we don't know. But at the end of the life cycle, we will have to know also how we have to manage the product if we want to uninstall the product or to recycle the product or to repair it. And in that case, if let's imagine that this is what we don't want for the companies today, but if there is a default or a bankrupt on a company, of course, in the future, we will need to understand, okay, even if the company disappeared, what is also the life cycle, the end of the life cycle of the product. So this is the reason why the digital product platform will also to be available somewhere outside of the company who has, which has manufactured the product, for instance. The next. Okay, so there are also some access to be decided. So of course we will have some public information. Okay, but due to the regulation, also to the authorities, they will also need also private information or restricted data. So in that case, in the project, we will have also to define not what are the data that will be public and restricted. It is not the objective of the DPP project, but the objective of the DPP project is to understand how we can manage the authorization for public or to the restricted area. So the rest of the other information will be managed with what we call delegated acts. So these are more local association or manufacturer association or different association that are on the same field that will decide or build some recommendation for each market. And next one. And the granularity, of course. So the granularity of the DPP is that because the question mark is today, to understand where we will have also to link the DPP, because for some products that are too small to welcome, for instance, a code or something like this. Of course, sometimes we will have to decide where we have to, where the DPP will have to be supported as the data carrier if we want also to follow up the product during the life cycle. Okay, so this also will be linked to the delegated acts to decide, depending on the product, what should be the best solution. But it is an option. Okay, to refer to a model, to a batch, to a product. It will depend on the product itself. Next. And the responsibility, of course, because an economic operator. So just to give you some word about this, an economic operator can be a manufacturer, can be another company who will place the product on the market, will be responsible for making the DPP available. So in a few words, so let's imagine that you are a manufacturer outside Europe, and so you want to place your product, so you go through a distributor. The distributor will become the economic operator and will be responsible for the availability of the DPP. So in that case, if the product has to be placed in the European market, the DPP will have to be available from the economic operator, or the economic operator will have to ask for the DPP to the foreign company, so the manufacturer. So meaning that you can see that this is not only a question for manufacturers, but also the economic actor. It's more largest wording, where we will have all the companies that are responsible to promote the product on the market. Okay, next one. Okay, so next. Okay, okay. So on the digital product passport. Yes, on the digital product, there are two things. There are the DPP system. Okay, so this is what I have explained. So the technology that we will have to introduce, and of course, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So the objective of the DPP project was to make an inventory of all the standards that already exist today, and and to discuss with the expert if the standard also is reliable for the DPP or compliant with the DPP requirement for the future. So the objective was to say, okay, if there is an existing norm for a standard for the unique identifier, of course, we'll have to keep it as it is if it is compliant with the requirement of the unique identifier definition for the DPP. And it will be the same for the security, for the data carrier, for the API management, etc., etc., etc. Okay. On the other side, on the data, so, and this is what we decided to make a difference between both, because we are not there to discuss about the data, okay, so the content. This is more linked to the product group specifics. So this is what I just explained before. It will be under the responsibility of the delegated acts to determine in addition to what will be the limited number of information that are required on the DPP, the rest will be more linked to recommendation or constraints coming from the manufacturer association or the local organizations. Why? Because of course we don't provide the same information for a car or for a textile or for anything else or for a smartphone. So we are not talking about the same data. And in that case, of course, each market will have to decide and to discuss about this. Then, of course, if there are some requirement from a specific delegated act, the DPP will have to be able to transport this data in addition as a link, as anything else, but it will be also it must be available. So meaning that the DPP, of course, will become in the future also something that where we want also to have as a maximum as a minimum a limited number of codes on the product, because we cannot display a lot of codes on the product because the consumer will be lost. But the objective for the future is to have only one way to access to all the information, and so we will go step by step. But this is not the objective of the DPP today to provide everything. As I just discussed in the introduction, sorry, of the DPP. So we are talking about the circular economy. So there are a lot of information that we want to give to the consumer first to be able to understand what he can do with the product at the end of the life cycle. Okay, this is the most important. Just to come back on this, on the circularity, there is also one thing that is really important. This is the second hand, because of course we are moving on the world where we will have in the next coming years a number of limited resources, because some resources will disappear, and so we don't have to wait for the disparition of these resources to react. So in that case, if we want to continue to produce and to get some products, we will have to be able to reuse also the existing resources that we have or already used in the goods. For the second hand today, of course, in the mind of the people, sometimes the second hand is very cheap because the people don't have money to buy a new product, so they have to buy a second hand product, etc. In the future, the objective is not to say the second hand is a cheap product. A cheaper product. The objective for the second hand for the future is to say, okay, now we are in a world where we have limited resources, and the objective is to be able to reuse the same product, considering the fact that a product will bring some features, some functions, and so if the second hand product can bring the same function with the same performance, why we should not take a second hand product instead of a new one? Okay, so meaning that in the future, the objective is also to give the same value, or maybe a lower value, but the same value at the same functionality or the same feature for a second-hand product compared to a new one, a new product. And so this is where we have to change also the mind of the people, and where the mind will change also, because finally, when you buy something, this almost of the time, of course, because some people wants to have some product just to have it, but most of the time when you buy something, this is for a specific number of features. Okay, and so this is the value that you give to the product. Okay, next one. Okay, so the stakeholder will be the same. So you will have a lot of stakeholders managing also the DPP. Indeed, because you will have users, you will have recycling companies, you will have also third party. If we take an example for the smartphone, you have repairing companies. Okay, so each time that we will have something happening on the products, on the life cycle of the product, this will have to be reported on the DPP. This is exactly what you have today on the car market. If you want to buy a renew car, like a second-hand car, you have now the history of the car when you buy it on the specific network. So you can have the information of the car. So the information about the history, what has been done on the car, what has been repaired, this car has an accident or not, etc., etc. So you have this is really close to a DPP. Okay, you have the same for other industry. So we mentioned also Michelin. You have also Decathlon, who have also already, they don't name it the DPP, but because it is not standardized today, but this is what they call the twin, the digital twin. But you have also a list of information on the products today, and so this is really close to the DPP objective. Okay, next one. So we decided on the DPP with the European Commission, so to have what we call a joint technical committee. So there is a lot of almost of the European countries participating in this technical committee, and so we have divided the committees in different working groups linked to different topics. And this is what we just discussed just before. The first one is a little bit different because the first one, this is a strategic advisory group. So it's just to make the discussion between all the other groups fluent, and so when we have to take some arbitration between the issues between the working groups. So the strategic advisory group will also make some recommendation. Will never take some decision because the decision will be taken at the technical committee, but they are making some recommendation, and also they are responsible for the development of the program. The second one, it is a unique identifier and data carrier. So we have in France also people in charge of this. The GS1, for example, is a very active actor on the unique identifier and data carrier. But we have also Sweden, we have also other countries on that. And the objective is to also make the review of all the standards that exist today on the unique identifier. The third one, so it will be security, and you are on the room today, Zbigniew and Laurent, who are today in charge of the security part. So, and we have some module also to achieve. What you can see on this slide also, sorry, because it is not clear on the working group 4, but you have some modules, and so you have one module 1 to module 8, and this module represents the number of standards that we have to define before the end of the year. Okay, so this standard, we will see just them very quickly after, but you will see that these standards normally, if you are fluent in the standardization, normally it takes 10 years to write a norm and to publish a norm. Here we had only 18 months to do it. Okay, so just letting you know that what is the exigence of the European Commission on this topic. So by the end of the year, the technical committee will have to propose and to present the result of the different working groups and presenting the project for the standard. And then when the standard will be proposed to the European Commission, you will have also a public survey, etc., etc. And then after the publication of the standard, maybe mid of next year or later, but normally it will be mid of next year. Just so it is really important to understand this, because only just after the publication of the standard, then the software editor will be able to say, okay, we are compliant with the DPP system. Today, this is not the case because the standard is not yet defined. Okay, so be careful when you have some companies who are proposing you some compliance on DPP. I don't know what is the meaning of this, because there is no standard published today on this site. So it will be next year, but not before. Okay. Next one. Okay, so this will be the different standards. So I will let you just read on this after, but again, it's a link to the unique identifier, the data carrier, the access management, the interoperability. Also, it is very important on this topic when we are talking about the different markets. Okay, so we need to have data also interoperable, and also depending on the different organization where we discuss all together for the data processing, the protocols, the data storage, etc. So you can see that on this slide, you can see that all the process today is covered by a standard. Okay. On my side, for instance, I will have to translate the module 8 for the API. So I will be in charge to translate in French and validate the standard in French for this one, because this is more on my expertise for the API management. Next one. Okay, so meaning that when we are talking about the DPP registry, so we will have a European registry, so where we will have information available. But okay, what we wanted also to show that there are also already some existing registry, like you can see as an example, EPREL. I don't know if all of you know EPREL. EPREL is it's a website where you can find information about white goods, for instance, or tires. So if you want to buy a washing machine or anything else, you can go on this website and you will have a lot of information, detailed information about the energy consumption of the product, but also a lot of new information about the products. So what was the first date of the on the market, etc. So you have a lot of information available. Of course, the objective of the DPP is not to destroy EPREL; it's just to use what it is in EPREL and to make the data available to be to communicate between EPREL and the future DPP registry. Okay, so you can see that we will not reinvent the wheel. We just make an inventory. We make some recommendation on the DPP, and then all of the standards that will be listed on the DPP normally should be compliant with the requirement of the DPP. So globally speaking, you can see that the DPP it is a real document. Why it is also important? Because a few days ago, European Commission has published a new requirement or a new need or something like this, because they would like to the DPP become also not only a document for the circular economy, but they want also for the DPP to be used as a tool or something to manage the compliance of the product on the market. Meaning that for the future, when the product will have to go through the border, the European border, the custom should be able to use the DPP to control the good about their compliance. Okay, so this is something really new. It will change completely also the way how we will manage the DPP in the future. But it was something that we should understand, because from the beginning at the European Commission, when we discussed about the DPP, there were a lot of proposals or investigation about the compliance or I should say the anti-counterfeit solutions. And then the DPP is something that maybe should be the right solution for the future and the only one solution for the future on the European market. The last evolution is that we are actually in discussion with other countries outside Europe, because of course, when we are talking about the DPP in Europe, in other continents like China and America, they're also thinking about that. So we are discussing actually, we are in discussion on this. We did not take the decision about this because it was a proposal from Germany to create, to extend the technical committee, but okay. So for political reason, we have to discuss and to make some requirement before. But there is also actually a technical committee for China that will also work on the DPP, more Chinese DPP. And it is really important to make sure that all of them will be interoperable. Okay, that's it for me. For the if we want to also for the implementation, so the implementation, okay, we'll start with first. It was first for the battery and the textile. Okay, so it is the agenda, but we will see that the implementation of the DPP will go through many years. For instance, I'm coming from the industry, so electrical industry. On my industry, the cable, for instance, will not be more before 2030, but it is only in 5 years. Okay, so it's very close to tomorrow, and we will see that progressively there is a list of products that should be, and you will see the list, the ranking of the main product on this presentation, where you should be able to see where your industry should be involved in the DPP.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just as a reminder for everyone, so Mr. Philippot is Vice President of a working committee for AFNOR working on DPP. So that's why we wanted to have this introduction with him. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
So now we will move to the next part. So now I'm inviting to the roundtable several people who are interesting for each different topic we're going to address. So Anouk, Gerritsen, please, if you can join us. Thank you. So Anouk, please sit. So Anouk, it's very important, one of the key players, because she is the one who will be in between you sitting here as a consumer and those who are also at the other part of the chain, the very start, which is the manufacturing. So you are with Jog, and I will have an anecdote for you just afterwards. So now, second, Zbigniew, Sagan, please, if you can join us. So Zbigniew is Business Development Director for Advanced Track and Trace, and he will tell us more about it in a few moments. Stef, where is Stef? Stef, sorry, because I can see Sébastien here, that's why. It was a trick. Stef, if you can sit here. Stef Venner is with Huawei, as you can see, Senior Cloud Solution Architect. Am I right? Yes. That's wonderful. And Sébastien, please, Worldline, a colleague. Sébastien is the head of the digital track and trace product line, let's say, to make it simple. And here with us, it's solutions we like to talk about. And Anouk.
Hello.
Now that you have heard a lot about the DPP in its, I would say, theory, concept, constraints, let's make something out of that. Mm-hmm. And before we start, I have a personal anecdote for you. Really, personal. So as I said, I was the 2 days before at Money 2020, just came back this morning. Yesterday, I was, and that's the G by the way, I was wearing a Garcia shirt.
Lovely.
Yes, I was.
Good.
But that's not the only part of the anecdote. Because the real anecdote is that yes, it's exactly our topic. I got it on Vinted. Brand new.
Brand new?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a pity that the first owner sold it, but it's good that you got it.
But that's the anecdote, because it relates exactly to the topic. Mm-hmm. I'm a customer. I was glad to buy it free, as a bargain, as new, on Vinted.
Yeah.
Okay, why not? But how can I be sure? That's always a question. So now I would like you to, tell us your point of view about that, about this traceability and circularity.
Yes.
As a merchant. How do you see what's your vision on it?
What's my vision? I think DPP can really help explain you as a second-hand customer what the garment is all about and which route it has traveled. And maybe even in the future has a point on the DPP which is saying it comes from customer A to customer B.
Which is exactly what was missing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, probably it's a real one. Mm-hmm. Fine. But how can I be sure that that's really the question? But not only about circularity. How today are you impacted with, you are purchasing from the manufacturers, and how do you plan to implement that, or is it already starting to be implemented, this traceability?
It's already starting to be implemented. If you buy a new garment in our stores nowadays, there's a QR code in the QR label, so you can scan it, and all our manufacturers are published there, but also the traceability or the recyclability and the material. But it starts with the talks with our suppliers. We really need to get them involved in the process because all the data needs to be coming from them, and we need to publish it in the digital product passport. But the data in the end is coming from them. So it takes a lot of cooperation, collaboration, and explaining why it's necessary. And I think there's also a demonstration of the product passport. So we can all see how it works when a consumer buys the item, scan the QR code. But in the end, it's not in our hands, it's in the hands of our supply chain to have all this data public, to collect all the data and to show it to the consumers.
So I would add another question, and there will be questions coming from the public and also those online. To you as a merchant, is it a constraint or an opportunity? We love digital transformation at Worldline. We love retailers. They are the volume of our revenue. So we love to work in this ecosystem, but always, is it a regulation? Is it just a constraint or an opportunity? That's a key question.
of course, this opportunity. There's so much more behind this digital product passport. We have an EPR in the Netherlands as well, that we are responsible for taking back the garment, so make sure that it's recycled properly. But with the QR code, we can explain to the consumers what to do when they want to dispose the garments, and to make sure that the yarns within are recycled, and we can put it back in our new garments. Because, like said before, we don't want to have any waste. We want to use everything that we have used already, because there's enough fashion in this world to, I think, make fashion for over 30, 40, 100 years. So why should we buy new fashion? Yeah, of course we want to be dressed properly and nicely, and we have the new colors and new collection every time. But if we can put old garments back in it, it's way better for the environment. And with the QR code, we can explain to our consumers what to do with it, how to dispose it properly. So it's an opportunity. And not only for that, for marketing reasons, for everything, you can include maybe in the end a video with a new collection. For instance, this was last year's collection, but the trousers are new collection, but I combined it, so maybe you can show it in a video as a marketing trick. So if they scan the QR code, they see you can combine this with something new, so the consumer goes back to the store. Or you can say you have something from previous collections, you can combine it with a new item you bought. So there are many opportunities, not only for regulations, but also for marketing, for sales, everything.
So it brings another question, because I'm listening, a new one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because you are CSR, ESG,
Yeah.
motivated,
Mm-hmm.
my question is CSR driving DPP, or is DPP driving CSR now?
I think that depends for the company you're working for. Because some companies just want to follow the regulation and only do that, but other companies want to go further than the regulation.
What about JOG?
I think we want to go further because, of course, we want to make good materials, good items for our customers that are long-lasting. And also, if they have the trust in our brand, they come back. But also, if they trust in our brand, they will buy it second-hand, or they will deposit properly, so we can reuse our own resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Anouk. So we started with the merchant view, and now we're going to the technical part. So there are two real technical people here, the closest to me. So we will certainly move to the technical question afterward. The next, that's on purpose, the next question will be for Sébastien, because he's Worldline. No, that's not the reason. But now you're going also to drive us before we move to the tech, because we are not the tech in that, we are the solution. We love digital transformation, that's what Worldline is. So to you, how does it work? Why are we legitimate in our history or other solution? Because you are leading this traceability story with Worldline. So where does it come from? And again, is it driving us, or are we driving it? That's a connection with AFNOR and everything. So what's your view on that?
If I may, I think Anouk has prepared a demo for us. So I will just drive it about what was the implementation of QR code or DPP on the Garcia item. So how it looks like. Maybe you want to comment, Anouk?
Yeah, so on the screen you see a garment with a QR code printed on the care label. And if you scan it, you see the material, the recyclability, and all the suppliers until tier 3 that have worked on this item. So it's not yet to the cotton fields, that's the next step. And we need to have more development for that also with geolocations. But now it's until tier 3, so until the manufacturer that has spun the yarn. And then every other supplier for the trimmings, for the printing, for the dyeing, for the cut and sew eventually is in the product passport. And it's available for every consumer that buys a Garcia item. Garcia is also sold at Jean Center. Jean Center is our retail company. And we have a men's fashion brand, Gerritsen, as well, which will follow soon with the digital product passport.
Thank you, Anouk. So it's my turn. And because I know you were asking me a lot of questions, I decided to prepare myself, because first we are hosting the event, and I want to be corporate. So I had. Okay, you are. So I had one option, going freestyle. I will try to avoid, because I know Stef is better than me. So I moved to a second option. Put my ideas on a piece of paper and make things structured, because it will be my pitch, and there is a lot of people in the room. I don't want to lose the trend. And then I say we are a tech company, or we try to be a tech company. We are using AI, so I decided to go to a third option, which is chatting with chatbot, asking them the same question you just asked me, and challenge my answer. So I did that. I print it on the paper that I'm showing to you, saying that it's my own words, and I can even better doing freestyle by learning it. But I think after 2 hours of discussion with Gemini and DeepSeek yesterday evening, that we have to go to a fourth option. And to answer your question, maybe to visualize what are my ideas regarding this long journey. So where I wanted to start with this demonstration is first, that we don't have to make the mistake that DPP will be driven by technology. The implementation of DPP will be supported by technology. And if I have to give one advice to all the company who will be faced that issues, or to be faced as challenge, let's not focus first on the technology, because the technology will evaluate or evolve faster than the transformation of your own company to adapt to DPP. So that's the first lessons learned. And I did myself the experience yesterday. I was just trying to write a piece of paper, and at the end of the day, I came up to chat with Gemini and DeepSeek. I have my preference, Stef. Sorry for that. Then, the second point that we have to be care of is that there is two things in DPP. There is the easy part, which is the visible side of the iceberg, which is represented here on the left side, that every consumer will see it. And the easy part is being compliant with a simple data carrier or QR code or whatever you want, accessible for the end consumer with static data behind. That's the easy part. And that's where we have to explain to all the company will be impacted, there is an easy way to engage with compliance. Don't make it too complex. But the second element of DPP is what is under the water, which is the complex part. DPP is not only putting a label on a product. It's creating an ecosystem with a lot of stakeholders that will be regulated by standards, protocol, subsystem, and so on. There will be many different solutions. And Thierry used good words. There are already a lot of companies who claim that they have a DPP compliant solution. How can we comply to something which is not yet specified? But DPP is not a new concept. There is already a lot of concept of digital twins for other products and so on. So the complexity will be mainly on how I interconnect to this ecosystem as a company, where there will be notion of interoperability, security, sovereignty, transparency, confidentiality, a lot of different arguments ending by E. So they have to consider it as a transformation. Zbigniew, they want you to talk. They have to consider it as a global transformation of their company. And I always make the comparison when people ask me how we will have to engage with DPP, like the company who tried to implement an ERP system. I will not name them, but it's about the same journey. They start to select an ERP provider, and the first point is ERP is for the financial guy to handle our finance within the company. That's the first approach. And they start to implement it, and all the companies start to rush and to cry because nothing works. The management is complaining, we have a lot of delays, what happened? And they involve business, operation, sales, legal, everyone gets involved just to make it happen. Because in fact, the ERP is transforming your own company to use the same tool for everyone dealing with his business. So the first step when you engage with transformation for ERP is not to select the provider, is first to try to understand how you are running your own business and identify all the processes internally, put them on the paper, on the table, and then you fit the ERP to your ecosystem. DPP will be the same. Don't start selecting a provider, don't start selecting a technology, put all the different actors within your company around the same table and say we are about to change our way of working just because we have to comply to something which asks us simply to put a QR code. Our experience within Worldline, it's about something similar. Okay, you can see this is tobacco cigarette packs. But the concept of this tobacco cigarette packs came from a famous European regulation, which is the Tobacco Product Directive that was published in 2014 and put live in 2019, which state that each unique cigarette packs in Europe will have one unique code, unique identifier on each item, and we will have to track from production line to first point of sale, so to the small retail outlet, the whole life cycle of the cigarette packs. And because it's a European Commission, they created the same as DPP, an ecosystem with subsystem, protocols, way of identifying goods. And then Worldline, we were requested by some main manufacturer in Europe to support their implementation, to support this digital transformation. And I have one example of a customer who started literally with 5 guys within this company. This is the picture that was represented here on the right. 5 guys. They acquire system on the production line. They acquire system to connect to ERP. They acquire system to manage the warehouse management system. They start to acquire a lot of things, technological things, well sail. And after 2 or 3 months, they realize that it's becoming a nightmare. 3 IT guys, 2 people from the business, everything was completely disturbed, the operation were completely blocked, production line were stopped, trucks cannot leave the factory, which is good for health because we are talking about cigarettes. But they were completely disturbed by the fact that they didn't really understand that every step of their business will be impacted. So they start to engage a lot of people just to mature the things. And now, even if it's 6 years after the implementation, they are running with a team of 40 people just to support all the factories around the world to comply with this regulation, which is still simple. A QR code, no, here it's not matrix, but a data carrier printed on the packs to enable full end-to-end traceability. The lessons learned behind is that when you start to implement a DPP system or a traceability system, if we talk about traceability in general, you have first to nominate champions, DPP champions within your own entities, track and trace champion within your own entities, who will evangelize all your different stakeholders, internal stakeholders, of what will be the impact. And you don't have to think we have the solution right now. And this is the end of what DeepSeek was finding for me. I think it's because there is an Asian link there. Is this sentences from Lao Tse would state that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. So my advice for all the company will be impacted is that don't stick to the technology, it will follow. Nominate champions internally that will evangelize the people. It's not a problematic of CSR compliance, it's a problematic for all the people within the company, and engage step by step. And we are lucky, Thierry just said it again, there is no standard yet, so we still have times to organize ourselves. And I think I didn't answer exactly to your question, because I have something else to say. Thank you.
That you want to say now or later?
No.
But you enlightened me, and us probably. And again, like when we were discussing with Anouk, it brought me some new ideas, analogies. You know, I love analogies. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it's spot on because what you said relating to what Mr. Philippot was saying. Yes, exactly. How can you comply? I think we could discuss that with Laurent also. How can you comply with something which is not existing? And to me, the analogy are 2 of them. It's been several years I'm going to Vivatech, and that's very funny to see people announcing, startups. I've been a startup guy, so it's normal. You want people to believe something, and they're all announcing that they are AI something. It's been years, right? AI what? And when you come and discuss to them and ask for the elevator pitch, what happens is always the same. Like I've been myself for fundraising, receiving from VCs, you're hurt with something very basic. Oh, you're doing AI. What do you do? What kind? And I think started, changing last year with chat, but before that, it was only ML and data. That's it. No AI, even though Elon was coming, but it was no AI. Now I think this year, next week, we will hear about agent AI, so we'll see. That will be very interesting. I'm sure we'll meet together over there. But the other analogy is last year, when we were at our booth at Paris Retail Week, it was very interesting to see also what people were saying. And we were in several shows announcing our products. And it was interesting to see other companies, which is normal, from Italy, where also garments is very important, and several others. So technologists, 4 verticals, announcing DPP, it was written. DPP, DPP ready product. So that they would have been, they would have had an interesting discussion with Mr. Philippot, I believe. But anyway,
sure.
So yeah, these analogies to me are really what's coming from outside. Mm-hmm. What was your next idea? You wanted to share something?
Oh,
right?
I will leave the floor for the next one.
That's okay. And you have the clicker, by the way.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's what I was missing.
Zbigniew, just
so,
sign.
Zbigniew, you are with Advanced Track and Trace. So definitely, we start now, the technology part, right? So get ready for that. So, definitely, you are the one to tell us about counterfeiting, anti-counterfeiting, and also this traceability and data integrity. You're the one for that. So what are your reflections about DPP with this?
Yes, of course, DPP is an excellent field to explore our experience related to anti-counterfeiting and brand protection. It's about security. Now, the security is a very broad term. So, in DPP context for us, based on our experience, we try to think security globally. And so, first of all, DPP will develop something, and it is already going with massive scanning of QR codes. Everybody is doing that, and not being really aware about what can happen if instead to read a genuine initial code that was put on the document, product, or anything, could do if this is not a good one. So, saying that, it becomes clear for us that, first of all, we need to think and even change the paradigm of security in DPP context, because we need to think about consumer security. If you have 1 billion scans a day, there is always a probability that a tiny percentage of those scans will do something wrong. With DPP, it will be multiplied by thousands. So the percentage will be the same, but the potential number of people that will be harmed after scanning code, and with this code, they will find the wrong link. It can end with impersonation. It is already quite often the case. It can end with financial fraud, because instead to provide you just the information, initial information that you will scan on the product, you will be led, for instance, for a fraudulent website. You will be proposed a bargain, you will be proposed a promotion of something, you will give your name, your email address, you will pay a small amount of money to have to profit from this occasion. And starting from that point, the fraud is not really to bring you a false product, but the goal, the real goal, is to retrieve your data that will trigger the fraud that is not even related with the product that you scanned. And of course, after 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, when the organized structures will analyze your data, and yes, with AI, this is more and more easy, you will be found, you will receive a phone from a bank asking you something, saying you the things that supposedly nobody else than you could know. You will be convinced to have the right person on the other side of the phone, and it can lead to many, many bad things. So what we provided and what we proposed in the frame of DPP standardization process was something coming from this kind of security assessment. And as within the VDSIC, Visible Digital Seal International Council, this is a non-for-profit organization that was founded in France with participation of authorities, namely Ministry of Interior. We developed the standards based on so ISO standards that are providing, first of all, the tool that will enable you to authentify the source of the data that you will have within the code, and also will check if the data integrity within this code was not corrupted. And this is a absolutely necessary starting point when you read any kind of information. It can be QR code, it can be RFID tag, even SMS that you receive because someone announced you that you have received a parcel. Yes, pay attention, because what is essential is the trustworthiness of the information. And so we, based on those ISO standards that were proposed for DPP Module 7 related to data integrity, this was retained. This was taken into consideration with the link with the anti-counterfeiting methods in order to assess not just the information on the code, but also how to assess the trustworthiness and legitimacy of the product itself. So this is another story. So you see, security is covering and should cover globally a holistic way, end-to-end situation, which will be provided with many good things coming from circularity and circular economy. So another problem related to circular economy is the fact that in many cases you will not have just a serial number of the goods. So in that case, it is not possible to assess initial identity of the product. So with the circular economy, probably there will be a possibility to add something, but again, based on this basic security related to electronic signature, that will declare that, okay, I am a legal entity, European legal entity, I take care of this process or product, I put identity related to the second life of the product, and so on and so on. So yes, it is complex, but in our opinion, it will give an opportunity to the brands also to take care about their customers, because knowing and this security assessment, yes, it is necessary when possible to provide the necessary methods in order to prevent and avoid and mitigate any kind of fraud related to our daily life. Today we scan QR codes probably every day.
Very interesting. And again, an analogy or a reflection on my side, because and I know a bit about contactless, even before joining Worldline with NFC, it reminds me of that time where even banks didn't know what they were going to do with contactless, right? And now it's everywhere, right? And now there are wallets. But it's always the same. And what you're saying is kind of close to that, because the technology is there. The technology is not coming because DPP is coming. The traceability, the anti-counterfeiting, the data integrity is what you are doing since long. There's a reason for that. What Sébastien was explaining with the tobacco is also existing already. So that's very interesting because it's aligning. So DPP is rather a framework.
Exactly, it is a framework.
And the technology can align on it, And of course, they will evolve, they will become better, but it's coming all together, finally. So it's not like suddenly DPP happens and we have to find solutions. It's always, the technology is there, but the tech for the tech, and I know what it is, tech for the tech is nothing. So the technology with a problem, as always, a pain, especially in every geography, society, and for everyone. Now it's because of the planet and what we're doing to it. So that's a reason. So using the technology for it is interesting. And again, like Sébastien was saying, and we are not, it's always very complex with Worldline. Are we a tech company or not? It's always a very interesting question. But we are rather a solution company, providing solutions. So now, after, am I missing the clicking and the slides?
Yeah, I think
because you have the clicker.
Yeah, I think
Zbigniew
prepared some slide for us, so maybe Zbigniew.
Yes, so more or less you will find on those two slides something that I already mentioned. So it is a massive using of QR codes is creating a new threat. This threat should be assessed, and digital product passport will really, in my opinion, generalize a very simple act to scan something. I see a code, I scan it because it is useful, because the primary goal for this is to go easily to the right authoritative source for the information related to the product, to the document, to anything. This is, QR codes. You already, since a couple of years till now, you have also on governmental documents, on ID cards, in passport, in visas. So QR code is not anything new. It is existing. It is just the medium to bring information to the right place. How to assess the trustworthiness of this information is not related to the QR code. It can be any other medium that is containing data. And so it can be compared to the risks that were not immediately correctly perceived, starting from with floppy disks. So, okay, at the beginning of microcomputer era, floppy disk was something magic. You put the information on it. You don't know how to retrieve it, but the computer is doing that, fine. And very, very quickly, with the development of malicious softwares and viruses, it becomes the source of problem. So you put the floppy disk in the computer, you reboot the computer, and the disaster is there. After that, it was more or less with USB keys. It was very useful. It is already used, but as you know, in a serious company, it is not possible to use anymore USB keys unless you are using something internal. Why? Because you have the same risks. So this medium introduced a new methods, a new possibilities to fraudsters, how to penetrate your IT system, how to steal your data, and so on, and so on, and so on. And I think that with QR code is more or less the same. And even is what is different is really this massive use of QR codes. So again, 1% of 1 billion is means a lot of humans that can be affected by very, very serious problems provoked and created and prepared by the fraudsters. So yes, pay attention when you read the QR code. You see, even existing phone application to read the QR code evolved from a certain time. From the beginning, at the beginning, you just could scan the code and go somewhere. Now it is not possible anymore, fortunately. At least you are prevented that, okay, you have this or that link within the QR code. Would you like to go there? Would you like to assess better what is the address that you are supposed to follow, and so on and so on? This is a good measure. Now, this kind of solution and this kind of security can't rely on your awareness. And what we proposed, including for the module 7 of DPP framework standard, is based on 3 different ISO standards. Based on electronic signature, is already linked with the European wallet and eIDAS regulation. So you know that there is several levels of different certificates. This method is already using qualified eIDAS certificate. It will be free. It should be always free. And this will be also exclusively the political decision if such a protection will be completely optional, which is already the case. You know, already even today you have a GTIN code, you have a GS1 digital link. It is not protected. You can add this method in order to be sure that reading this code, there will be no more possibility to be redirected to the fraudulent website or the source of information that is not legitimate. What about identity or supposed identity that you will find on the product or document? So this is existing. What will happen, as Thierry mentioned, and this was really very useful. Today, you can't know what will be mandatory, what will be not mandatory after negotiation of delegated acts. The technical stuff is there. Now, delegated acts will say, you shall do this, and after that, you can add whatever you want. If it, in your opinion, it will it will improve the security, but it will be not necessarily mandatory. So, saying that, security based on electronic signature related to eIDAS, related to European wallet. Why European wallet? Because as far as you needed to authentify in your work entity, European entity that is responsible for managing DPP-related data, it can be done differently than using identity that is defined by European regulation. So European regulations will play a major role when the delegated acts will be proposed.
So what's interesting here that if I relate everything all together, I understand that we could be impacted like phishing. We could be impacting, impacted in our wallet. I mean, really the cash, because we could pay more than we should, or that relates to the tobacco. We could be also impacted in our health, for instance, because we could use a cigarette which is not supposed to be that, right? So that there are several ways to be impacted. So the next speaker, Stef. So we know who you are now already, but the key question that you will address is certainly, and that relates again all together, what about cross-border, crossing the border, the continents?
Exactly, yeah. Cross-border data transfer. That's one of the biggest issues that we see in the DPP. For garments, already talked with Anouk before this session about it. How are you going to get the data from the small cotton fields to up to like the tier 4 it was, I think, that you were talking about. How do you get this data? Because getting this data sounds easy, but getting this data in Europe, that's the real problem. Of course, here in Europe we have the Data Act, a little bit, as we all know, with GDPR legislation on top of that for companies is called the Data Act. But you also have this in other countries. But in every other country, this data legislation or this data laws, they are different. So you still have to find a way to connect them all together. So for this you need to create an ecosystem in the producing countries, let's say China, but also the APAC region, Bangladesh, Vietnam. That's where they are producing everything. But then you also have to get this data to Europe to be compliant with your DPP. And that's what Huawei is doing. We will help to enable to transfer the data from China to Europe. For this, we have developed something, and it's also here in Europe. It's called a data space. It's a governance layer that's actually being used before sending any data to authenticate and to make sure that the information that's being sent over is sent to the right person at the right time and at the right location, and if they actually can find out if they can actually use this data for their purposes. So that's also why I was talking a little bit GDPR, because that's also, these questions are the same as asked when you're working with personal data for consumers here in Europe. Of course, in China, you also have a legislation like the Data Act. It's called the Digital Data Law. Exactly the same, but with some nuances. So actually getting the data from China is as hard as sending the data through the Data Act back to the APAC region. So from the manufacturer to the consumer, but also on the way back. Because we're not only looking at garments, but for DPPs, for example, for batteries, we also need to send some of the data back. And this two-way connection, and that's also what seems really simple within tobacco, because there it's just the whole supply chain that you have to map. For garments, it's also just the supply chain that you have to map. But for batteries, you also have to send data back, because you have to comply with regulations in repairability, with regulations in sustainability. So that's as well recyclers. And these companies that are producing this in China, it's their intellectual property. And because it's their IP, they don't want it to be shared with their competitors, because they could build a better product. And that's also inside the history and also in the DNA of Huawei. So we started as a PBX company. We were trading telephone equipment from a small apartment in Shenzhen in 1987. It was a special economic zone, so after they opened up to the rest of the world. It was a rural village, as we can see here, really small. And it actually grew to this, to a metropole, high-tech, with all the big companies from China that we all know, like Huawei, Tencent, DJI, BYD. They're all focused in this special economic zone. So in Shenzhen, we grew with Shenzhen, and all the companies grew with Shenzhen. And because we were a telephone company, we were specialized in data communication. And that's still in the DNA of Huawei today. Because what we do is not only telephones, not only 5G equipment, but we are an innovation company, a global innovation company that brings innovation from the west to the east. We do that in over 170 countries with over 200,000 employees. And as you can see here, 54% of the employees actually works in research and development. So as you just were explaining, Worldline, is it a technology company or something else? Well, we want to address ourselves as an innovation company, to bring innovation and sustain innovation, to bring a digital place to everyone and every business in the world, fully digitalized and fully connected. And that's what we are doing around the world. And also for the DPP, we want to be the bridge from the east to the west, in a global and also transparent way, of course.
The key information to me, and because it's my thrill every day, is an ecosystem.
Yes.
We need the technology, we need the users, the consumers, the providers, the manufacturers, the solution providers. We need all of us, and that's the ecosystem. So it's partnerships. That's why we're here all together. So yeah, that's really the key. So I'm sure there are questions, and I will check on the tablet over there whether there are also questions online. I have a ton of questions myself, but I can talk a lot already. So I will open up for any question in the room.
Do I have to stand up or can I stay? Okay. Good afternoon and thank you everyone. Maria from Vestiaire Collective, and which is a second-hand fashion platform. I have a question for Anouk. You said that DPPs offer also an opportunity rather than just a burden of compliance, and I was wondering what type of opportunities more concretely you see in DPPs going beyond compliance.
Add any information you want to the DPP, everything you want to show as a brand, and maybe if you sell it on a second-hand platform, you can even integrate that in DPP. But also if you want to add certificates, for instance, from the suppliers, or show if the supplier has used green energy or solar panels, those things you can all show within the DPP, which are not necessary right now. So I think it's a lot of opportunities to show that, if you have a green strategy, that you're even implementing that and that's attached to a garment.
So you really see business opportunities there?
Yeah, I see green business opportunities. Can't say the word green, but yeah.
Great.
Yeah, great. But I think we can show how our supply chain is moving towards a sustainable supply chain, and I think everybody nowadays thinks fashion is very pollutant and very bad, and of course I agree with that, but if we make steps towards a sustainable supply chain, we can show that in the DPP, and of course we still sell garments which are not fully green yet, but sometimes we make one and we are very proud of that, and we can show that within the DPP, and we can actually tell the story behind it, and the consumer can also make a choice. For instance, when they are in the jean center, we also sell third brands, or we sell other brands we have besides Garcia Jean Center and Jason. We also have some smaller brands that we sell there which are our own. They can make a comparison between two jeans, and they can choose the best option which fits for them. So I think that is a great opportunity that they, when there is maybe an LCA in the future attached to it, they can see like, oh, this jeans is made more sustainable than the other one. I would want to make the most sustainable choice, so I chose this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Paul from Worldline. You will see me later. But I wanted to intervene on that comment, on that question for Vestiaire Collective, because I believe that, in fact, the DPP can really bring something for the second-hand platforms. Because as we mentioned before, that's going to be a data carrier. This data carrier will be directly on the product somewhere, and you will not be able to remove it. So if you want to come to a second-hand platform, you have this element that you can securely authenticate. So for you also, it's how to come to fight against fraud, against let's say fake item that can go through your platform. So I think it can be a really easy way for you to make sure to secure, to simplify the process for the user of the platform. So I really see that it should be for you a great opportunity.
So when you think about recyclability, we have a near our office, we have a shop that repairs our jeans when it's broken, but also when it's coming from our suppliers and already a button is missing. They repair it and we sell it in the store for less than the original price, with a sign that somebody from Syria or from another country that came to the Netherlands has repaired it. And that's also something we can integrate in the digital product passport and show that it's also made in the Netherlands, so it's not only made in the Far East, but also a person here in the Netherlands has worked on the item, has repaired it, and gave it a second life cycle, because otherwise we had thrown it away before because there was a hole in it or a button was missing, and we just said like, oh, it's not fixable anymore, we will throw it away, hopefully in the recycling bin, and we will never see that item again. And now we're actually sending it back from our warehouse to this repair station, and that can be integrated as well.
Just to add a comment, I think thinking about Vestiaire Collective, it's interesting because it's like in technology. Again, it's an ecosystem, and you know that there are several merchants who are themselves creating their own circular ecosystem themselves, right? And some not, and it can be in anything. appliances or whatever, Darty, for instance, or whoever. I mean, there are all of these attempts, I would say. So we'll see where it goes. But I think there is a connection. So again, to me, it's more an opportunity. I'm a strong believer in co-opetition. There's no competition to me. So it's co-opetition always. Please.
Thank you. I have actually a very boring question, and I was hoping to ask it to Mr. Philippot, but he left. So maybe Zbigniew, you can help me, because I know that you're part of the AFNOR and also Sentinel-Link meetings. So I think it's pretty clear now to everyone that there will be a framework. So DPP is a framework, and next step will be delegated acts per industry in order to allow each industry to adapt to their specifics and constraints, right? If we take a battery regulation, so 1542, which came up in 2023, right? There is already a very constraintful regulation on the batteries and their import to EU. So most of the attributes that we will discover on the DPP are already there and a part of the ecosystem. So battery producers, they do know basically what will be the very last mile would be the QR code adding and maybe some other elements. So my question was more relating to, do you believe that there will be a notion of a trusted partner, which, let's say, a mandatory trusted partner who would need to provide those type of information, or the process of, let's say, distribution of information and display and communication to EU Commission will remain the same as is per today?
So, it's a very large question. Now, let's start with the initial principle. When the European Commission asked us as an experts, when starting to work on framework standards, the idea was to, as far as possible, to keep existing unchanged. You couldn't imagine that for any kind of industrial sector, you could today impose to change everything. So this is a basic principle that I hope all the experts adopted. And we have the representatives also coming from very different industries, and they take care about this, and this should work like that. What is existing is there. So battery is a good and bad example, because you can't compare directly a battery with, as I remember, 280 attributes or something like that, and the garment with even not a serial number, just a GTIN. Yeah, it is very different. So it can enter into the same framework, but as you said, everything will be rendered mandatory or not via delegated acts. So what will remain as mandatory attributes for batteries? I don't know. I can tell you, however, that a couple of weeks ago, the European Commission amended the standardization request, which is the base of our work, and there's no more specific reference to the batteries with standardization request. It means that, yes, this framework should cover anything, but the complexity is related to each single sector, even to each single type of products. And it was also reflected by what Thierry Philippot said about EPREL. At the beginning of our work, I have a co-project leader, my co-project leader on the floor, Laurent Tonnelier, Mobilid. We discovered, at the beginning it was for everyone, it was something new. When we started to understand what is the topic to be treated, we thought at the beginning, yes, how it will cooperate with EPREL. EPREL is there. You have the attributes that are energy efficiency data. There are some different attributes, but it is already there. Now the difference is that EPRL is central database. And from the beginning, DPP was thought as distributed data. Why? Because you have too many different sectors or activity. So the system, you couldn't imagine that you put the billions and the billions of serial number within the centralized European register. So EPRL is there, and at the same time, when they modified standardization request, they confirmed that all the products, so I think that there is already today 18 different product lines that are part of EPRL. All the products that are already in this system will be considered as fulfilling the criteria for DPP. So it is a very, very good example because technically everything is the same. What will just change? Okay, there will be a central registry, but just with a pointer where you could find the data related to the product.
Okay, so basically something similar that already is in force for wine industry, for example, where there is a QR code mandatory from this year in all over Europe. All the wine producers need to have a QR code on the bottle, which is scannable by anyone and bring you to one page that show you all the information about where wine was produced, by whom, what's the calories and the composition of this wine bottle.
And so
something similar. So,
yes,
so small wine producers, they are not obliged to go and buy central repository or secondary repository, as in TPD, or primary repository for any data or IT provider. They can do it themselves in their small server in-house and generate QR codes and put it and have a database visible to the EU Commission.
It's a good example now. As you know, food for many reasons is not
it's
a
not
part
DPP,
of DPP.
but it's something similar.
But this is a very good example because the same technical basis, the same technical tool. What is the difference between a T-shirt and a bottle of wine when we are talking about identity of the object? There's no. So it would be rather wise, rather useful to think about the framework that at the end can cover any kind of activity. And this is also true, I think, for tobacco and tobacco product directive. Another interesting case, because as you know, the tobacco directive will be reviewed probably in 2026-7 probably. So once we have, this is my personal opinion, once we have DPP in place, which is working, so today you can think that it will be at the end not so complicated from this technical point of view. But once you have that, what would be the reason when reviewing TPD directive not to integrate the technical tool that is available, including a trusted entry point which probably will be integrated into European wallet to assess any kind of European document and product? Why not, as you say?
Thank you. And thank you all for the questions. I have myself a ton of questions, but we need to wrap up. And I know we could have a ton of questions, definitely. I could have also asked the advice and all the questions from the bank, for instance, but I will not do that because we will not end up before tomorrow. So, but Sébastien, I'm sure you have something to say for a wrap up and probably also a surprise.
Should I wrap up or go directly to the surprise? Okay.
Because of time. But
okay.
Those who are on the streaming will stay. Those who are here with us, they can stay.
I will go to the surprise, and we move to the Worldline part.
Yeah.
So as you are all here, standards is not yet there, but you have to get ready. And it's about an ecosystem built in with mainly based on partnerships. And today, Worldline is very happy, and I'm proud to announce that we are launching today our industry leadership program, where we will invite any company to come to play with us and to assess the notion of cross-border, to assess the notion of security, to assess the notion of collecting data, to assess the notion of building ecosystem, and for that, we have a slogan which is simplifying your circularity journey. That's our objective. We want to take it easy, the compliance part, knowing that below, the underwater part, it's complex. So to introduce this industry leadership program, I will ask my dear colleague Paul De Fies, our product manager, to come over and to present the concept in details. Maybe Paul may have a mic.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, that's something that we are quite happy today to present to you. And we are also happy to see a lot of people here, also online, because it's a great day for us. That's the beginning of the journey. And as you understood, it's an ecosystem. We'll have players around this, so that's just the start. That's the first step that we have today. And I think you had a quote, I don't exactly remember the quote you had before on the slide, but this is the first step of a long journey. And this is where we are. So we had to start somewhere, and we wanted to have a first start with one of our partners that is here today. I don't know exactly where on the room, but we are working today with Traceability, a German startup that is with us. And we wanted to, since you understood there is a lot of different products that will be touched by the DPP, but there is a timeline by the EU. The first one is the battery industry by 27. So we are not claiming to be compliant to anything. We well understood that this is not possible today because the standardization work is ongoing. That should be finished next year. But there is a lot of different, DPP projects. There is more than 120 projects funded by the EU. It's huge, and we are in some of them. So that gives us some light, let's say, on what should be the trend, what type of data we should find in the DPP and so on. And so that's why we selected the first product that is a battery, and that is also something coming from China, because we want also to test this cross-border topic and also anticipate the fact that we will have a lot of manufacturers coming from China and from Asia, from the rest of the world. So we came today with this proposition, with this passport, or at least the first step of the passport, and indeed we will invite people to join us in this. So what I want to do today, let's see if it works with, if I click on it, if it activates, yeah, it does. So as you can see, we really want to keep it quite easy in few steps. So I think you will see on the bottom, so maybe for the people behind, what we see on the bottom is like you create your DPP, you upload your data, you, let's say, fill in the template, and you get your passport. So here what you can see, just let's say the manufacturer portal. So you as a manufacturer, you will be able to connect to this. You have an organization, you can enroll the different people to give them the access to this. And then after that, what we try to do is to follow the requirement from the DIN. So we had let's say, a battery pass. It was also a European project that gave a lot of insight about a DPP and what should be the data that we should find in this DPP. So we took all those information to anticipate and to prepare something. So here you can create your DPP, you fill in with the names, whatever you want, and after that you come to the different elements that you will be able to complete. So you put here just the example we have. So you put some information, you can upload a picture, and then you can also choose different colors. You can try to fine-tune a little bit what you have, and you go to next. And what you will see is all the different type of data you can find on the DPP, and you can see that for batteries, that will be a bunch of information that you need to collect, and that will be also one of the next steps to make sure that we connect to the industry the same way we did for the tobacco, to collect those information. So you will see that for a manufacturer it can be quite a long journey to fill in those information. So what we are trying also to ease is how you can really try to check on all the data that you will have on your information you provide us. So you will give us some information, we will upload those information, and we will run through it to automatically fill in the template. So that's what's happening here. We are uploading the file, and then we complete the information directly, retrieving all of them. So you will see that we are collecting the different information and fitting them into this template. So I think, because of course to avoid the demo effect, I did a recording of this to make sure that we don't have any issues. So I don't know exactly how it goes, but I think here what I want to show you is you collect the company name, you collect the contact numbers, you collect the address of the factory, and you will see that you have different information. You have the manufacturing details, but you also have the economic operators that is responsible for putting the product on the market. And sometimes it can be different people. So you need to collect all those type of informations, and when you did it, so let's see where I go, the different performances, because on the DPP we mentioned it as well, you will have static data, but you will have also dynamic data, and this dynamic data means also that you will need to get with the IoT system of a battery, for instance. So here we see, and at the end, you will see that you get to go to publish, and when you go to publish, you will issue then what we have for the time being a QR code, and you will have a DID ID, and that will redirect you to the public DPP. So, sorry Zbigniew, this QR code is not yet secured, but for sure you will protect it. And this type of protection for a QR code, it also depends on the industry. We see that for the tobacco, we see that for different type of industry. It depends on the production line. So what we try to do through this passport is to make something that is more appealing for a customer, for end user. And of course, here it remains quite, when you have a battery, the data that you have from the battery is a little bit boring, right? So how you understand the information from it and transform that information to make it useful for a customer. So this is what you can see here. You will see information related to general information of the battery, so what type of battery it is. So here it's a energy storage battery. You will see the manufacturing date. You will see the different addresses. You can see exactly where the manufacturer is located, and so on, and all the information that will have provided to us. So you as an end user, in the end, you will have those type of information, and you will see the different type of also information like performances, compliances. You will see also the composition and the circularity information, and you will see that you have in the end a lot of information also that we can provide, like for instance documentation. And you were mentioning before what type of information we can see. We can put certificate. We can, in the end, I think Zbigniew, you mentioned it before, but it's something that gives you a framework. So the European Commission will give you the mandatory data, but then it's up to you to provide more information to make this a new channel of communication and a revenue stream for your company. So, yeah.
Mention also that it was announced that all conformity certificates will be also integrated probably in as the attributes of DPP. So today even on a battery you have the label European conformity. It is just a label. So imagine that reading this code, you are sure that you are going to the right authoritative source, and you have a full list, a full documentation, which is mandatory and required by European Union. This is this difference when this is a real added value related to DPP implementation, I think.
Yeah, and so what you see from there, of course, as soon as we have the European registry and we know how to connect to this and so on, all this needs to be done. But as we mentioned, this is the first step. 27 is pretty soon, actually. It seems quite far, but actually this is tomorrow, and we need to anticipate this. So we need also the customers to come with us, to try it out, to give us their feedback, to see what works, what doesn't work, what should be improved. But this is a journey that we should tackle together to make it really, really happening. And what is important is, for us, it's a bit our mindset that we also have from, let's say, the financial part, or let's say from the merchant side. it's a mass market product. It's something that needs to tackle all the different customers. I mean, this is the manufacturers. And in Europe, there is more than 1 million SMEs. So it's a huge number of companies that doesn't have the IT system to make it happen. So they need to be supported, and they need to have cheap solutions that works and make them compliant. So this is through this type of program, that's what we want to achieve. So that's what I wanted to share with you. You can find here 2 different QR codes, one explaining a bit more about the leadership program, and one where you can scan and you will see on your smartphone how it looks like on your phone as well.
Only one of those.
For sure it's sufficient.
What I will enhance is the fact that it was the example on battery because it's the main case where we can show a lot of data thanks to the battery pass. But the intention of this industry leadership program is to bring people to play like a sandbox where with partner we will build the solution. Because we are not the only one claiming we have the solution, we have the technology approach. We are there with partner like Huawei for the cloud and the cross-border part. We have partner like Verity for the management of the data, the collection, and more the embedding in the manufacturing. We will bring partner for brand authentication and security. So there is this notion to, we are ongoing building an ecosystem that will be standardized soon, but we can already be ready. What we are missing, and that's what our intention altogether is to have people just playing with us. Like building with Lego, new houses, we are trying to build something for the future, and now we are just opening the sandbox. So please, feel free to connect and to join us.
So that will be the wrap-up, and thanks for those who are still online, if any, but as those who are here. And before the demo tour, as a wrap-up, yeah, definitely what I can explain is also why is it typically a project for and with Worldline, and why we want to do that with all of you, is because when we are who we are, so related to a payment DNA, its volume, its scaling, its security, its compliance, that's what we do, day to day, all the time. And that's why this is meaningful. And again, because this is something we do with partners, ecosystem, customers are partners, and really vice versa, that's the idea. So that's a wrap up for now. Thank you all. Thank you for the information and for the nice announcement. And I hope that we will make the journey together. By the way, I think I can recall that sentence as a final wrap-up before the demo tour. I think it's a 1,000-mile journey. Start with one step. So let's make that step together. Thank you all.